Hey, what's going on everyone? It's Griffin here, and I hope you're all having a relaxing Sunday. Now, today's video is going to be a little bit different than the recent content we've been speaking about on the channel, where we've been looking over specific investments like stocks, funds, etc. But it's also really important to take a step back from the day-to-day nitty-gritty of investment analysis in order to speak about an overall investment strategy for longer-term wealth creation. This is a video that I've honestly wanted to make for a while now, because even though, yes, we speak about specific stocks and other investments on the channel, well, behind the scenes, there's a lot more that goes on in planning and strategizing where I want to be in a year from now from a financial position and what I want my portfolio to look like. So anyways, this year in 2021, absolutely I'm looking to increase the value of my stock portfolio with various positions and growth stocks that we speak about and feature on this channel, but I'm also looking to accomplish a more well-rounded approach to help me feel more financially sound, especially during a market environment where the stock market is extremely volatile and trading at all-time highs. You know, even Graham Stephan last week released a video speaking about how insane the stock market is right now, where a lot of newer investors are looking for extremely volatile stocks in order to make a quick dollar. And this is a strategy that honestly I believe is taking over a longer term approach for wealth creation, which I like to speak about on this channel. So yeah, this is something that I think will benefit a lot of viewers watching this right now, where I'm going to be going through my overall strategy for wealth creation and where I'm looking to invest in 2021, going over each facet of this strategy, including real estate, my stock portfolio, cash savings, crypto, and more, because the reality is that there's more to an overall financial plan than just seeking out the next hot growth stock. Let's get right into it. As always, if you're new to investing, then make sure to check out the links down in the description to open up a Questrade or a Wealthsimple trade account. You'll get some free money for opening and signing up. And then also, if you're new to stock market investing and you do want to start off on the right foot, then make sure to check out my full comprehensive 60 video lecture course that you can find in the first link down in the description. And finally, if you want to have direct access to ask me as well as the other 65 individuals in my Discord community, then make sure to check out the link down in the description. We have conversations there on a daily basis. So with all that said, let's get right into my financial strategy for 2021. All right, so diving into it here, obviously stock market investing is one of my favorite forms of investing, and it's also one of the main topics that we speak about on the channel. Stock investing is accessible to everyone. You can start with very little capital now that we have access to these new types of brokerages, and it's also highly liquid in that you can easily deploy capital into the market in order to make a return, and you can also withdraw funds a lot easier than some of the other types of asset classes that are far less liquid. Now, over the past year or so since the March 2020 crash, I don't think I have to mention that the market has been extremely kind to us, and that basically anything you could have invested in over the past year has gone up in value tremendously. This is certainly the case for my positions, and most likely is also the case for your portfolio. But even considering this extremely bullish market that we're currently living through, I'm not changing my investment strategy up whatsoever. And that month after month, I'm still consistently deploying a large chunk of capital into my solid base of index funds. And this is going to continue allowing my portfolio to increase in value over the long term while lowering the overall volatility of this portfolio. I'm well aware of the fact that this isn't the most exciting way of investing, but for the average retail investor that's looking to hold their investments over at least 10 years, this is really a solid way of building up a stock portfolio, and is something I speak about a lot on this channel. Now, of course, I like to dabble in other growth stocks, and mainly that's what we end up speaking about on the channel because that's what viewers are interested in. But this doesn't change the fact that at least 50% typically of my positions are held in broad exchange traded funds like S&P 500, NASDAQ 100, as well as some ARK ETFs, and other individual growth stocks typically only make up a small portion of my portfolio on a relative basis. So yeah, my stock strategy hasn't really changed here and will continue being the same in 2021, where at a minimum 50% of my portfolio is typically comprised of exchange traded funds. And then obviously though, I will be deploying some capital each month into other individual stocks. And this is most likely going to be in industries that I see having tremendous growth opportunity over the coming 5 to 10 years. And with stocks and companies that I actually see having a minimum 25% upside in the year in terms of share value appreciation. So I'm looking mainly at stocks that operate in the cannabis industry, renewable energy, telemedicine, e-commerce, cloud computing, and the gaming industries, among a handful of others. Now, if you're wondering why these industries in particular, these are just industries I see having some major catalysts now and over the coming years, either political, macroeconomic, etc. And if you want more information about all this, make sure to check out my other stock related videos where I go into detail about my theories behind these different industries. But with all that said, even though the stock market is basically trading at all-time highs right now and the S&P 500's average price to earnings ratio is quite inflated, I still don't think that we're going to be seeing any type of severe market crash this year. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but regardless, I'm still looking at opportunities to get in on stocks from these previous industries for a mid to longer term hold. So by deploying capital into the stock market each and every week typically is when I'll make deposits into my portfolios and then purchase some stocks. Well, even if we are at all-time highs right now, because I'm looking for a longer term hold on most of these positions, I'm just dollar cost averaging into these funds and individual stocks for a minimum 10-year hold where I should be able to average out my returns and exceed market returns. Personally, my aim for the year would be to produce an average return for my individual stock positions, excluding the exchange traded funds, of exceeding 50%. And in the current market environment and considering the industries I'm targeting right now, I think that this is going to be very doable. So if you want to keep up to date with all of my individual stock picks and what I'm doing, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell button so you're notified of new and upcoming stock market content. And by the way, if you are newer to investing and you want to see a 5-step process to get on the right foot and build out a portfolio suitable for you, then make sure to check out the video that I'm overlaying right here. Next up, we absolutely have to speak about real estate, which, even though far less liquid than the stock market and just straight up cash, along with the fact that typically it's a lot more work, well, real estate allows for large chunks of wealth creation in a relatively short period of time if done right, because you're able to benefit from appreciation, forced appreciation, which is where typically I spend most of my efforts, and then also cash flow as well as debt pay down through your tenants paying for the monthly payments. So the way I personally see this is that when you're first starting to invest, purchasing a property for as little as 5% down and possibly even house hacking is a fantastic way to get ahead and start building some equity for yourself. Now, with that said, over the past year or so, the real estate market both in Canada and the United States have both continued climbing higher and higher in value, mainly as a result of the pandemic and other macroeconomic events that have triggered the Feds to dramatically lower the baseline interest rates. If you've been following the channel for a while now, then guaranteed you've heard me speak about this phenomenon because this had a direct impact also on the stock market. But in regards to property and house prices, lower interest rates basically means that the average person can essentially afford more house, in that for the same monthly payments, these individuals are going to be paying less in interest towards their loan and can therefore purchase a house at a higher value. But this also in turn has the impact of increasing the price of houses. And this is then also combined with relatively low property supply nationwide. So even if you get a good price upon selling your house, well, you're looking at either downsizing at an inflated price or most likely another house of equal size that's shot up in value, and you're also faced with a bidding war of 25 other individuals. But if the Feds maintain these extremely low interest rates, which they have mentioned that they will for most likely a couple of years out, well, I don't really see house prices coming down anytime soon since demand is still through the roof. And yes, absolutely, real estate investing is still part of my financial strategy for 2021, where I'm looking to acquire more properties that I can fix up, raise the market value, which will have an impact on increasing my net worth, while also focusing on building up my asset column. And by the way, I know a lot of viewers have previously mentioned on my real estate focused content that it's basically impossible for them to get a foot in the door in their market because prices are just so inflated. But I would really encourage you to still just strive towards saving up for that first down payment, even if it takes years to accomplish, because once you do first purchase your property, that I hope would be a property that you're going to fix up and raise the market value, well, then you're able to control this asset, increase its value, debt pay down, potentially cash flow if you're renting it out to tenants. And then this is going to also have a domino effect on your financial life, where you can then later on refinance, pull out some money. There's just a lot more options available to you when you're investing in property. So in 2020, I sold off a duplex for a hefty profit. I then also purchased a new duplex that I lived in for several months, and I also closed on a fourplex. You can check out all of the detailed numbers. I go through them in each one of the videos that I'm overlaying right here. I would highly recommend you check that out if you're interested in learning what I was looking for in these properties. And now this year in 2021, I'm already off to a pretty good start. So yes, I did purchase a house that I'm living in, this one right here. I just needed more space essentially. And even though I do very much view this as a liability in that it's taking money out of my pocket each month instead of putting money in my pocket like other typical rental properties, well, I was still looking at this from an investment viewpoint in that I was purchasing a property that was severely under market value. I got a renovation loan for around $15,000, $16,000, redid the entire kitchen and a bunch of other things that I'm going to be showing in a future video. And this is going to raise the market value of this place to well above $400,000 in this market. So I was still looking at this from an investment standpoint, of course. And I'm also in the process of purchasing a new duplex that I have plans of later on converting into a triplex, as well as a triplex that I then have plans on converting into a fourplex. So as you can see, each one of these properties that I'm purchasing, I'm looking for massive value add. I'm not just out looking to buy any property that falls on my lap. I'm doing months of research in order to find properties that has a large gap of appreciation that I can go and create through forced appreciation by doing strategic renovations, as well as increasing rents potentially. All of this has an impact on the market value of these properties. This is really where the money is made, because even though when you purchase property, yes, cash flow is nice and appreciation naturally over time is also nice, but if you're able to go into this and look at it from an investment standpoint where you're going to put X dollars into the property, aka the down payment and some other closing costs, and then increase the value by, say, triple the amount, well, this is having a direct impact on your net worth. Quickly back to this house here, which yes, is a liability from a strict cash flow perspective of money coming out of my pocket each month. The interest rate I was able to secure on this place is 1.75%. That is dirt cheap. It's basically free money. Not really, but in terms of a historic mortgage rate, that is extremely low. I also only put 5% down on this property, and just after doing these renovations, it is worth about $100,000 more than what I paid for it. So if I were to sell this property, I can keep a very high excess gap there, or if later on down the line, which is more my strategy, I'm going to refinance the place, pull out a bunch of cash, and continue investing elsewhere. And same thing with those two other rental properties that I'm currently in the process of purchasing for very little down. Well, actually these ones I put significantly more down, but I'm still benefiting from 1.6% interest rate on my mortgage loans. And these properties are also cash flowing from day one. So regardless of what happens, even after I do convert these properties into an extra unit each, well, in this market that I live in and I'm investing in, these properties are going to be worth well over 25 to 30% more than what I paid for them. And finally, what I like best about this value add rental property strategy that I'm going to continue implementing in 2021 is that even if there is a market correction, which I don't think there will be, but let's say there is, well, I'm not going to be underwater on these properties. And I'll tell you why. First of all, the market value will be so much greater than what I actually paid for the properties, but then also the rents that I'm getting for each unit are going to far exceed the monthly payments on the mortgage as well as all the other expenses. So for this reason, even if the actual rent payments do end up getting severed temporarily, it's still going to cover all the expenses of the building. But with all that said, since the markets are so hot right now, pretty much across Canada and the United States, what I want you to take out of this is that, yes, it's really exciting to get into rental property investing, but make sure that you look for a deal where you can value add. Otherwise, you're looking for trouble because you're going to be buying a property that's worth pretty much what you paid for it. Make sure to learn more about your own market, network with other investors in the region, and then also make sure that you're implementing a proper strategy for yourself. So yeah, my real estate goals for 2021 include 10 new units added to my portfolio. I'm already on track for 5 of them here, and I'm always on the lookout for the next best deal. Oh, and also sort of a side goal here for real real estate, I want the cash flows from all these properties combined to cover at a minimum 50% of my personal monthly expenses, even though I'm not actually going to be using the cash flows for this, just theoretically speaking. All right, let's now move on to the next facet of my overall investing strategy for 2021. And this is in regards to cash, just straight up savings, nothing all too interesting to be honest, but it's still really important to have cash reserves in your overall financial strategy. Now, I do want to mention here that I do keep cash in my different brokerage accounts in case an opportunity arises and I feel like I want to get in on a given stock. But in this case, I'm speaking about actual just straight cash in a savings account, sort of like an emergency fund that I don't plan on touching. Typically, I recommend having anywhere between 3 to 6 months worth of your expenses saved up in an emergency fund in case something ever happens. And for the average individual, that is absolutely adequate. But I personally just want to take this one step further and have a full year's worth of my expenses saved up just in case something ever happens. Because the reality is that right now, I'm making basically all of my income from YouTube over the internet. And that can be a pretty volatile source of income. So just for my own personal peace of mind, I want to have that 1 year worth of money saved up, my expenses that is, in case something ever happens, I have a longer buffer to get myself back on my feet and find out what I'm going to do for my next venture. Now, obviously, I have no intentions whatsoever of ceasing to make YouTube videos. I love doing this and the community here is amazing, but I'm just trying to hedge myself against life and financial burdens. So as with any emergency fund, this includes everything from my house, my car expenses, insurance, food, Wi-Fi, cell phone, all of the above, everything you can think of really, 1 year's worth of expenses. That's what I'm looking to accomplish this year. And by the way, let me just make this clear that this isn't necessarily something I would recommend for the average individual. 3 to 6 months is going to be adequate, and actually more than that is typically going to be counterproductive in that with the interest rates right now being so low, the money that's just sitting in a savings account is going to be eroded away through inflation and actual value of your money over time. This is just something that I'm personally wanting to do as a result of those circumstances that I just mentioned, considering my sources of income. And you know, one could argue that for me of expenses around $30,000 a year now with the house and all that, it's not necessarily wise to have that amount of cash just sitting in an investment account with low interest rate. I can make a much higher return on investment investing in other properties or in the stock market, etc., which yeah, of course I can do that, but there's also value in having that financial peace of mind and knowing that if something happens, I'm going to be okay. So anyways, that's my plan in regards to cash savings for the year. I'd love to know your thoughts on this, what you're currently doing and what you think of my whole 1 year thing. Make sure to let me know down in the comments what you think about that, and let's get right into the next facet, which is crypto. I mean, come on, what would this video be without speaking about cryptocurrency, which has gained a lot of attention once again of the masses. Interestingly, when it's at all-time highs, the masses are looking to invest in it. But anyways, regardless of that, this is something that a lot of people asked me to speak about on the channel. I made a video last week speaking about if you do want to invest in the cryptocurrency, what are the platforms and brokerages that I use and recommend. In regards to this video though, and my investing strategy for 2021, sorry to disappoint, but cryptocurrency really doesn't have all that much of a space in my personal investing plan. I do still have an Ethereum mining rig that's been chugging along for the past 4 years or so, 24/7. It's just rolling and making passive income. But you know, by the way, for like 3 years, I was so underwater on that investment of around $3,000. And now years later, I've been able to mine roughly 6.5, almost 7 coins now, which is 5x my investment. But I don't actually plan on purchasing anymore right now with actual funds and depositing money into an account in order to purchase Bitcoin or Ethereum. I'm personally more interested in investing my money in the stock market, in exchange traded funds, as well as those industries that I was speaking about earlier, as well as real estate deals that where I can really control my investment a lot more and guarantee a certain rate of income through forced appreciation and raising rents. So that pretty much makes up my investing plan for 2021. It's actually not all that complicated and it's pretty simple. You know, keeping things more simple is typically a better course of action in my view and in my experience. Now, what I would want you to take away from this though is have that cash reserve, right? We're in a market environment right now, very volatile. We're seeing market prices fluctuate dramatically. Make sure to have those cash reserves in an emergency fund, but then also even in just your brokerage account. You know, you don't need to deploy all your cash cash right away into assets, you can dollar cost average and average into the market over time in case there is a market correction. Another point I hope you take away from this is make sure to diversify your investments into multiple different asset classes that we spoke about today, and don't just go all in on one or two positions like a Dogecoin or other YOLO positions. So with that said, 2020 was definitely an interesting year, but for investors in the stock market and real estate, it was an amazing year to create some massive returns. And I think 2021 is also going to provide massive opportunity. You just need to know where to look and be patient, really. We're seeing all-time highs in multiple different markets. Make sure you're looking for deals. Don't just jump into anything for the sake of it. Dollar cost average, deploy your cash strategically, and I think we'll be fine. So I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell button to be notified of my new and upcoming investing content. With that said, I'll see you in the next video.